everyone, I'm Taylor and this is Bravely Beautiful. Today I'm going to be talking about the Marc Jacobs Full Cover Foundation Concentrate. That is a mouthful. This is a $55 foundation from Sephora. That plays a huge part in my review. Just gonna say that up front because it has to be really good to be worth that price tag. So if you've been curious about this foundation too and want to know if it's worth the price tag, then just keep watching. So like I said, this is one of the foundations that I was curious to try. It was on my list of full coverage foundations and it's been talked about a lot. So I really wanted to check it out and see if it was worth that high $55 price tag. So it is $55 for 0.75 fluid ounces. Now that's less than the average foundation. They do say it's a concentrate though, so theoretically you would need a lot less of this product. So I guess in their minds, it evens out. Let's talk about the claims that Marc Jacobs makes about this foundation. He says that it is a foundation concentrate that delivers instant full coverage with a smooth, soft matte finish for up to 24-hour wear time. They say it is full coverage, that it has a natural finish, that it's a liquid, and that it's good for normal, dry, combination, and oily skin types. It is free of parabens, formaldehydes, mineral oil, and contains less than 1% of synthetic fragrance. It is also a cruelty-free product. It does say in the description that you can wear it alone or mix it with your favorite primer or luminizer, which is important for later. Let's talk about the shade range. It's bad. So there are technically 22 shades, but they've done something that I haven't seen in a launch before. They have concentrated so much on the middle shades with not very many shades on the deepest category and on the lightest category. So I had a very hard time finding my shade. Not to mention that it's online only, so you can't go in store and swatch these. So just to kind of give you an example of how bad it is, the first color that I picked out is called Bisque Medium, shade 26. Now I'm fair to light, so that sounds like an odd shade for me to pick out, right? Well, Bisque Medium is described as fair with neutral undertones. Why would you put bisque or medium with a fair foundation shade? Those don't go together. So not impressed with that. And then let me show you what Bisque Medium looked like so you can see how much it is not a fair shade. This is what they say fair with neutral undertones looks like. That is not fair, first of all, and second, it is not neutral undertone. That is a yellow undertone. So when I first got that in the mail, I tried to make it work because I didn't want to purchase a second $55 foundation, but it was just too dark for me. I could not make it work on its own. So I looked at the shade range again to try to get a lighter shade that matched, but every other shade just did not seem like it was going to work. So what I ended up doing was buying a second $55 foundation to try to get my correct shade match. And I ended up going with the lightest one because it said it was for very fair skin tones with a pink undertone. And that was shade 10 Ivory Light. So I had to mix these two foundations together to try to get something that matched. My foundation's actually a little bit too light today because it's hard to mix foundations to get it to match perfectly. So I wasn't impressed with the shade range. The descriptions were crap and the fair to light category is underrepresented and it's really hard to find your shade online. So that could really be improved. I hate the packaging of this foundation. So it looks pretty, right? I mean, it kind of looks like a pill bottle or something, or a giant pill. I don't know. But it looks pretty with the cloudy glass. It looks pretty on your vanity, but that's kind of where it stops. So it basically has two lids. So you take this off, and then you have this that you unscrew. So then it's this wand with this little ball on the end of it. It's not a pump, it's not a dropper. Either one of those would have been a lot better. So not only do you have to put it on something else to apply it on your face, unless you want to apply it directly with that little ball applicator thing, which you don't because you don't want to transfer that bacteria from your face back into your foundation bottle. I mean, maybe if I didn't have acne or problems like that, maybe I'd be okay with it, but it still kind of seems iffy. But it's also a giant mess. Like, look at this. Okay. So this dirty Kleenex, I know that's gross. I have to clean off the foundation every time I open it because it just like settles around the neck of the bottle here and just gets everywhere. It gets all in the lid. Like it's just really, really messy. And with a foundation that's like this liquidy, you should have gone with a pump or a dropper. I don't know why they went with that weird ball thing. And you also only get 0.75 fluid ounces. I mean, come on. Okay, the application is difficult. I think part of that is because it is a foundation concentrate, but you really have to work with this product. Now, it has a lot of coverage, but there's a fine line between too little and too much. And if you get too much, then things go bad real fast. It'll start to settle in any tiny little lines. It'll kind of start to crack. So you really have to make sure that you're working it into the skin, warming it up, and then just applying a little more wherever you need it. The first time I put it on, I put way too much product on and I hated it because it just cracked like all over in places that I don't have problems with lines with. That's not one of my problems. I have a lot of problems. That's not one of them. So for a foundation to settle into lines and crack on me, that's pretty bad. Right now, you're probably thinking that I hate this foundation, but you might be surprised by my recommendation at the end. Because with the application, if you get it just right, you get beautiful coverage that lasts a long time. The best way that I found to work with this product was actually with a beauty blender and with a brush. I would first go over everything with a beauty blender, and then I needed to go into a brush and definitely go around anywhere that you have those little hairs, like maybe around your mouth, your eyebrows, and then definitely in your hairline. And then I would go back with that brush and stamp in the product anywhere that it tended to settle in the past, which would be right here or right here. And I really made sure to blend it in like on the sides of my mouth and then my dimple area where I might tend to get a line. So it definitely took longer to apply this foundation than a lot of other foundations that I own. It is definitely full coverage, but you have to be careful not to go over full coverage. Otherwise, the foundation does not work like it's supposed to. There were not very many spots that I had to conceal after this foundation, and mostly that's because I was trying to make sure not to put too much of the foundation on to have those other problems happen. I didn't have any problems with flashback with this foundation. It does not have SPF in it, so that shouldn't be a problem anyways. It is not transfer proof. It is transfer resistant if you powder it. Okay, so let's talk about wear time now. This is where it gets a little weird. So this foundation actually looks better the longer you wear it. You know, once it has time to really meld into your skin. But going back to it not being transfer proof, you can still work with this foundation hours after you put it on. Meaning if you start to see it kind of settling in a little line or something, you can take, like I'll take my little concealer brush here and just kind of stamp it over that area and it'll go away. This is a foundation that I would trust to wear for my 13 to 15 hour time frame when I have my overnight shifts. This is a foundation though that you have to set. This is a foundation though that you have to set. I set it just with my Maybelline Fit Me, what is this? My Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless powder. You can use any powder. I wouldn't recommend a luminous one unless you have like drier skin, but it helps the foundation not to transfer onto your hand or clothing or anything like that. It also just really helps lock everything in so your foundation will last that long time. Guys, I had such a hard time deciding what my final thoughts were on this foundation. I think kind of what would sum it up would be, instead of returning this foundation like I was going to, I ended up buying another one. And this is a $55 foundation. So that kind of gives you some of my thoughts right there. I do not recommend this foundation on its own. I think this is a fabulous foundation to have to mix into other foundations to give them more coverage or to change the tone of it, or to mix in with a moisturizer or a primer. On its own, it's difficult to work with and hard to get the coverage right. But even just a tiny bit of another foundation, like I like mixing the L'Oreal Infallible Matte with it, just a little tiny bit, just changes the formulation enough to where it doesn't settle into those lines, it's easier to work with, and it lasts even longer. So if that was how you were going to use this foundation, then I highly recommend it. I have nothing to replace it. It has definitely become a part of my routine to mix into other foundations. Is it unfortunate that it costs $55 and I can't use it on its own? Absolutely. but I don't have anything to replace it now, and I've definitely come to rely on it. I won't be keeping both shades because that is ridiculous. I will only keep one to mix into other foundations. Let me know, have you tried this foundation? Did you enjoy it? Is it worth the $55 price tag to you? And if you haven't tried it, let me know, will you be checking it out after this video? Leave any questions or comments in the comment box down below. Like this video if you liked it, it really helps me out, and subscribe if you would like to see more content from me. I do things like foundation reviews and helpful videos for people with acne. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Viewing the Marc Jacobs, dang it, the name is so long I can never remember it. Marc Jacobs Full Coverage, I can't even say the name so long. What is this called? Today I'm going to be talking about the Marc Jacobs, I'm going to be reviewing the Marc Jacobs Full Cover Foundation Concentrate. Talking about the Marc Jacobs Full Cover Foundation Concentrate. You can barely read it. I feel like I'm dyslexic. So, I don't know what my thoughts are on this foundation. Okay, I do know what my thoughts are, but it took me a really long time to figure out how I felt about it.